All right. I think everybody that listens to me knows this is one of my favorite questions. Influencers. They come sometimes in a minute, if not a second. Somebody says something, right time, right place, whatever. Sometimes they're over a lifetime. And I love sharing when I speak, I talk about one of my first influencers was my grandfather. Not unusual, but he was from Kiev, my grandmother from Kiev, my mom, my aunt from Kiev, and he had an accent. And he would take me for walks in the park in Montreal when I was about 5 or 6. And long story short, one day I asked him, I called him Zeta. I said, Zeta, how do you know all these people that he talks to? And he looked at me and he said, well, one day it was funny. I smiled at somebody, and then he came over and smiled at me. And then he started talking to me. So I talked to him. And while we're talking, another person passed us and smiled at us because he saw we were smiling and came over. And before I knew it, I had all these friends and people, and that was that. And I understood it as a 5 or 6 year old would, but then even more that something even as little, not little, mind you, as a smile, influenced people to do things and be engaged and be happy. And so, with that said, can you tell us maybe about 2 or 3 people that have been an influence in your life?
Yeah, maybe, more. Let's see.
I'm sure there's lots more.
I know, right? Well, one, I would probably take you back to there's a young woman named Jobelle that had applied to Girl Power Talk, and when she applied, she had cancer, and she'd had one of her legs amputated, and she I've never met a more beautiful human being from the standpoint of resilience and positivity in the face of so much adversity. And Chevelle came into our organization, and she was just the epitome of positive energy. And you looked at your own life and challenges, and you saw how positive she was, having just put herself out there and created content. And here she is, where she had to get her leg amputated because of the cancer. Her hair had fallen out and changed colors, and there she is, smiling and being able to just put beauty out there and never complaining, and so grateful to be part of
It's
our
amazing.
organization. And Jabel, and she was also supremely talented from a graphic design standpoint and working on videos, but no one ever forgot Jobel every time you met her, every time she was on a call. And yeah, one day you get a notice that she's no longer here, and that was only in I was traveling in Poland, and you just realize just how precious life is. And one of the things I feel great about is, we sent her a package. We tried to get her to travel. We were going to bring her to our offices in India, and we are going to pay for one of her family members, and we just kept trying, but that she wouldn't be well enough. And um, you try to live your life a little bit better in people's honor that are there. Another influencer for me is Abraham Lincoln. I'm a little bit obsessed. I have an entire not bookshelf, but bookcase dedicated to Mr. Lincoln because of his resilience, because of his discipline, and just his, no other word, but perspicacity and his cognitive abilities to write, communicate, and manage, and coming from nothing and enduring his own challenges, be it with depression. And of course, we all know ostensibly the story, but I find that if you can just be a little bit like someone like him, and of course I've told stories, I've given speeches and hosted private dinners. People have known that I know a lot about Lincoln. They're like, Sameer, come talk at this private dinner I'm hosting about it, and you can really entertain with some of Lincoln's anecdotes. And I always say that, okay, like I'm happy to do that, but the credit, if you're gonna have me talk about Lincoln, the credit's all him. I'm just articulating and putting it out there. So he's been someone that has been hugely influential. And when I'm going through times of struggle or times that it's really positive, I think you can have an even keel and be able to do that. I find influence in all types of people. Of course, there's a stereotype about like Indian Americans and Indian parents that they want you to be like a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer or something. My dad was an engineer, and he never like tried to push me. He always said like, Sameer, you should get into social work, you should get into teaching. My mom would be like, do you watch like your son? Like, do you see him? Like, and he always just said, Sameer, I want you to be a good human being.
Right.
And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, you never understand it. And like, he's like, Sameer, I want you to just do good. I want you to do good in this world. And when people talk about you, or I'm able to share, and I was like, what is my dad talking about? And then you go through life and you realize that, wow, that's important. And so those, I'd say, are influencers. I'm incredibly grateful to have founded an organization that is just encompassing so many beautiful people. And I think about the privilege that I have of being born in the United States. And of course, everybody, to quote Mr. Lincoln, no man or woman knows so much where the shoe pinches as he or she who wears it. But it's a new era where you can have young people who are in Karachi in Pakistan, who are in Delhi, and they may be under some different circumstances in terms of their family life and society and culture, but they're more well-read and they've seen Breaking Bad, and so that to me is, so when I think about some of the resilience and ways that people in our organization have endured family challenges as young women and persevered through them to grow. And I think of my colleague Simran Singh, my colleague Tina Chawla, my colleague Sonam, my colleague Haifa, these are all people that, give inspiration to so many. And, through conversations and interactions with people like you, we're able to, bond together and do more good and care together and have a larger impact. And I know I'm running out because I've definitely surpassed my 3 here. But there's a gentleman named Eric Schrant that, of all things, Mark, he's in federal contracting and he helps consulting on federal contracting. And I met Eric, and I've been doing due diligence on like 18 different companies to figure out which one we should go with in order to become a federal contractor on SAM and GSA. And rarely do you speak to somebody in sales that is at the opposite of the spectrum, where there's not even an atom of agenda other than, hey, I really want to educate you and help you. Doesn't matter if you do it with me. And because we connected so fast, he connected me with his mother, and we really bonded because him and his mother have formed a foundation that helps children in Africa and India. And so forming a fast friendship on the speed of trust with somebody that has been an influence on me in a relatively short amount of time, those are the people. And that's why we have, the series where, we featured you on people we admire, because I'll close, and I know you told me not to, but it'd be very easy for someone successful, accomplished, and somebody that just is as well-rounded as you are, Mark, not to spend your time on something like, A Million Leaders for Peace and Nonflict and supporting organizations to help drive their initiatives and make sure that they're, incorporating DEI and women's empowerment. And the fact that you do that and you took the time here and you have this series, I know you said not to do it, but it's true that you're an influencer to someone like me to say, you know what, that's somebody that I need to spend more time with.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. And, the choice is ours, because we're always influencing people, whether we know it or not. And the choice is ours, really. Should we be positive or should we be negative? It's not that difficult a choice. And, it's a fantastic feeling when you see a young person or even an older person, for that matter, also all of a sudden get the sparkle back in their eye about, could have been the smallest thing you say to them, like, you look great today, or like, you did a great job on that, or thanks for these great questions that you asked, whatever it may be. Is it really that hard to do? Or I'd really want to hear your story, type of thing. Malcolm Gladwell, and then we got to jump here, said, You don't have to go somewhere exotic to have an amazing experience or hear the best story. Talk to the cashier at the drugstore and see what her story is. And I'll bet you it's pretty good too. And, and she talks to people all day going through. Who knows what kind of influence she's making. So thanks for sharing those. Now I know why you said at the very beginning that Abe Lincoln's looking. Now I got it, why he's looking. But thanks a million for all those that good stuff and who you are. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege to spend time with you in this regard. And if one person can see what I had to say and find inspiration or make a new friend in me or you, our organization, then today's been a huge win for me.
It's already been an Omni win. So way to go.